Hey, True Believers, Chris Mack coming at you too. Batman issue 241. And this book was a pain in the butt to hunt down. I wish I could got a better copy. As you can see, this one's a little banged up, but trying to get this particular issue in a near mint form, way out of my budget. So I'm at least happy to have this version. This is one of those iconic covers from Neil Adams, and very much something that's very homaged a lot. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's this issue. It was the first time to use this trade dressing of Batman instead of the old Batman Robin one. But yeah, that's kind of what makes this comic book in and of itself, part of history. This was from May of 1972. The story, not so much memorable, but entertaining nonetheless. The writer was Denny O'Neil, the penciler was Irv Novak, and the inker was Dick Giordano for this one. And Captain Sulphur, he's taken this woman hostage. Her name's Mary MacGuffin. A little on the nose. We'll get into that in a minute. But he's just a little tropey, and he's like, oh, the bat signal. It must mean your husband has succeeded in his, chore. This is marvelous, for it means that soon he will deliver the goods, into my hands. Never, my husband would never cooperate with a filthy spy. You had better hope he will, my dear. Or you will not see tomorrow's sunrise. Consider this a vow, and be aware that Colonel Sulphur, is famous for keeping vows. He's a weird duck as we get further into this. Now, they almost had a snick there for a second. I was like, wait a minute, is that Wolverine's? No, not yet. And this time in era, we did not have the snick yet. Now, anyway, this guy, he has some hang-ups. So as I just said, we'll get into it. That bite in the book just drives me nuts. Anyway. So yeah, at dawn, Mary MacGuffin dies. Now, even though this feels a little tropey, and I think this was Crisis on Infinite Earths. So there's still kind of that campiness coming out of the Silver Age, which I'm so glad we get out of the Silver Age. Anyway, listen to how this is written. A lot of the modern writers, I've said this a million times in different reviews, but sometimes they just forget to build tension, or at least in a classical way. I mean, listen to how O'Neill says, so it has already begun. This excursion into danger. Follow the Batman as he battles friend and foe to solve a murder before it occurs. I just kind of wish that modern writers would sort of go back, look at how certain writers made the book pop, and instead of making everything so, I don't know, just feels watered down. Even though there's a lot of good storytelling, I just miss certain things like that. Now here what's happening is this MacGuffin guy, he works for the government. It says, not a trace, top secret government paper stolen from under our noses. Not to mention the most elaborate alarm system this side of the Pentagon. You FBI men are as stumped as my police force, eh? Well, we get expert help soon from the Batman. And one thing about pre-Crisis Batman that I always enjoyed is how he kind of interacted with everyone. Even though he was a little talky, I mean, listen to this. You want to meet Commissioner Gordon? Yes. We have a real baffler. Documents involving secret diplomatic relations are missing. I assume you don't have any idea how they were taken. Not one Batman. Now this guy, he's been complaining, saying, I don't agree with you bringing in a masked vigilante to discuss important business. And I just like how Batman picks this dude up. He's like the city commissioner or something. He goes, you've examined the premise? Yes, and found nothing except a small bit of silver. He goes, I'm rather allergic to nosy city commissioners. I just love how he just throws them out. But these older books, this is what made the older stories for me engaging, because now all these modern writers, they always make Batman the brooding, leave me alone, leave me alone. I have this whole family, but leave me alone. Here you see how he worked together with Gordon, the government, essentially. And it felt detective-y. He's like, now you were saying it's a single clue, a formless hunk of metal. Not much, maybe, but something. And you see how Batman would just go about solving the case. And even being able to discern certain things, like here he goes, "Can I help you, sir? Is Mr. MacGuffin in?" "I'm afraid not, sir. I saw him and his wife leaving their car an hour ago." "Anything else?" And I love this sort of Dutch low angle here where you see these socks. He goes, "Yes, this." If that thug figured to impersonate a doorman, he would have realized a polished building like this doesn't permit uniformed employees to wear Argyle socks. Clashes with the fancy duds. So again, you see Batman using deduction to realize that something is amiss and learn why MacGuffin's doing what he's doing. He essentially says that my wife's going to be murdered if I don't comply. And Batman, here you show again that he's a man and he's not infallible. He jumps the gun and basically puts the death of his wife on a ticking clock. And it's tearing him apart. He's like, "I shouldn't have done that. I got to fix this mistake." And so just a lot of Batman going through now, beating the crap out of all these punks, and essentially finding Colonel Sulphur. Now, I don't want to give away the whole story here, but Colonel Sulphur has a little bit of OCD because he says, "I only kill at this particular time. I can't do it any other the rest of this time because it just doesn't feel right to me." And it just sort of tropey. But again, all villains somehow always have these type of weird hang-ups. And again, shows Batman is not infallible. He ends up getting sliced and has to chase down the villain. And he does get a bit of a bopping along the way. Now, I'm not going to give away the rest of this book. We do jump into a story with Robin, and he meets this woman, and he finds out that she has powers, and finds out that she has a long-lost sister that is part of the Titans. Her name's Lilith. And I guess it's like psychic or telekinesis or whatnot, but it's very supernatural. Robin brings them together, and they have to go against the cult of Cthulhu. And again, even though Robin has been, this is Dick Grayson at this point, even though he has been trained by the Dark Knight. Speaking of which, before we go any further, the writer on this was Mike Friedrich. The penciler was Rick Buckler, and he also did the inks, and it didn't give who did the colors. But look at the artwork. It matches just what we read, but look at the way the anatomy is done. Now think of this. This is 1972. No digital art. This is all hand. You just had to know anatomy and learned how the body moved through traditional means. And again, I think this is why I love this artwork. I mean, the new stuff's astounding, but a lot of it's done 3D models, digital coloring. It is cool to see that technology grow, but coming back to this and seeing old school stories, the way they wrote stuff that feels more like Sherlock Holmes or the OG way of comic storytelling through dialogue and visual storytelling through here. Yet the cultists are not to be defeated. Again and again, they attack a raging red tide of gleaming murder. In the way the wordplay, I think that's what I'm trying to get is I miss the wordplay and how they would describe the scene. I mean, even though you're looking, you can just kind of, it feels palatable on the tongue the way the story is told. Now, again, I don't want to give too much away, but it does show the infallibility of both the dynamic duo. And one thing I appreciate about this book, and this is the last thing we'll go over, is there's a lot of the older books, Bronze and Silver, they would usually have 3 or 4 stories. Sometimes it would be the same character, other times it'd be just randomness, which we've gone over before. But this here is one of the stories from Batman number 5. This is the case of the honest crook. And this was Bill Finger writing, Bob Kane penciling, and Jerry Robinson and George Rosso doing the inks. And this was before the Silver Age made the books silly. Now again, even... let's go back further, because this was March 1941. So let's go back to the 40s now. And kind of following what O'Neill said, listen to how Finger sets the scene for what we're about to go into. He goes, "There's a time when justice is blind, when justice errs. The time the long arm of the law points to an accusing finger at an innocent man. This is the story of such a man who, because of the law's wrong judgment, almost became a criminal. But for the timely intervention of the Batman and Robin, the boy wonder For it was they who gave him back his self-respect and weeded out the evil that was to be found in the case of the honest crook. And again, I think that's just that being able to paint a picture with words where they'd say, like, this dark clad figure. You know what? Better yet, let's let Finger explain it to us right here. A cry cuts sharply through the midnight air. A thief flees in panic from the scene of this crime when suddenly an ink-hued figure slinks out of the deep shadows. A short run, a low tackle, and the mantled figure brings down the fugitive thief. As the Batman is about to strike the thief, something in the boy's eyes stays his fists, for they reveal a desperate, tortured soul. Even though certain modern writers for Batman have been great, I feel like in a lot of comics, not just Batman, being able for that wordplay and just painting pictures is a lost art. And even though, again, this is 40s Bronze Age, this story is really great because you come to find out that this man was falsely accused by the mob. He wants to marry his woman of his dreams, but she says, let's wait till we save up the money, which at this point it's like only $1,000. But let's think 1940s money compared to 2023, which I'm just going to stop right there. He's a mechanic. Thug says, hey, let me park this hot car here. He agrees for the money because it'll allow him and his wife, fiancée to get married. But he tells her about it. She goes, no, I'm not going to be any part of this. So he goes to tell the mobster no, which gets him in trouble, gives him a prison rap, can't get a job anywhere. So even though his fiancée waited for him while he was in the slammer, he just can't catch a break. And there's a reason why he stole the money, which, again, I don't want to give that away. I want you guys to read the book. Even if you can't get a copy of the OG copy, go get it in a collected trade, because there's, a lot of these old school classic stories have been reprinted again and again and again. But Batman, being Bruce Wayne, is able to help this man. He goes, I will help to clear your name. It says, later, when the grateful boy is gone, the Batman's lithe form darts through the darkened streets. See how, even though we're having the visual storytelling, Finger's words just help move the story organically along. And again, this is pre-Crisis, so Batman, again, is very chatty. Evening, Smiley. Thought I'd come to pay a social call. The Batman. He goes, Matty Link framed a kid I know. Joe Sands. Would you by any chance have been the one who fixed up the frame? And he's just sitting there nonchalant. He's like, you know what? We're going to rough you up a little bit just so you'll learn not to get in my business. I'm going to sit back in my ringside seat and enjoy this. Make yourself comfortable. Take this. Missed? Now that's nice, trying to hit a man when he's sitting down. Nice of you to provide entertainment at your party, Smiley. When are you serving tea? The Batman shoots up out of the chair like an unleashed bolt of lightning. And I was not bored reading this. It just goes on and on. And again, one thing about Batman #5 is it's apparently the first presumed death of a Robin. So if that scene looks familiar to you, go back and think of A Death in the Family and how, God, who was it? Was it Jim Sterling and Jim Aparo? I think they were the ones that wrote that. I'm not 100% sure, but I know it was Jim Sterling writing. But look at how they went back and homaged the work done here by Finger and Bob Kane. Very great stuff. For the first time, the Batman knows rage. Bleak, grim rage. Woe to all criminals, for now the Batman has become a terrible figure of vengeance. So guys, just going back and being able to read traditional storytelling, both visually and art-wise like this, this is definitely a book you want to have in your collection. Just awesome way that the story unfolds organically. Nothing feels, like I said, there's a few tropes and a few things on the nose, like Mary, MacGuffin. Okay, whatever, we'll let it go. But other than that, beautiful artwork. Still vibrant colors in this book. And then, of course, what really rounds this book out completely is the memorable cover here by Neil Adams. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, either if you have the cash, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever it is you like to pick up books and see if they have an OG copy of this for sale. Because if you're a Batman fan, something you want in your collection. If not, as I just said, it's been reprinted several times, so just find which collected trade or omnibus or whatever has this in it and go pick it up. And if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little Dark Knight bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.